everyone, and welcome to episode number 4 of our Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program podcast series. I'm Dr. Gabriela Ilie, and today I'm joined by Kyle, a graduate of the Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program. In this episode, Kyle shares his personal journey from his life before his prostate cancer diagnosis to the symptoms that led him to seek medical care, through his initial decision to pursue active surveillance, and eventually through his treatment experiences and recovery. He speaks candidly about undergoing surgery and radiation and about the emotional and physical challenges he faced while navigating treatment decisions. Kyle's story offers important insights into the patient experience, the critical role of early detection, and the empowering steps individuals can take right now to reclaim their health and well-being after a cancer diagnosis. The Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program, a 6-month daily home-based health promotion program developed right here in Nova Scotia, is now available worldwide and speaks to the practical steps towards well-being. We hope you check out our program. You can go to PC-PEP.org to learn more. Kyle was in his late 40s when he was diagnosed, reminding us just how important it is to get tested early, especially if you have a family history of prostate cancer. Early detection can be as simple as a PSA blood test requested during your annual checkup. The purpose of this podcast is not only to share personal journeys such as Kyle's, but also to raise awareness. To learn more, visit pcpep.org or watch our documentary, Empower. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Hi, Kyle. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast with me.
It's a pleasure, Dr. Gabriela. It's a pleasure for you to speak with you and have to be on your program.
Oh, wonderful. You've been a participant in our program, the Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program. And just before we go into that, can you tell me a little bit about your life before you were diagnosed with prostate cancer? What were your daily routines, habits, overall lifestyle before the diagnosis? And then were there any symptoms or signs that led you to seek medical advice before the diagnosis?
So prior to the diagnosis, I lived in Mississauga, Ontario, and it all started for me in 2015. So up until that point in time, I was working at a marketing company. It was a very fast-paced company. There was stress here and there, and outside that, I was sociable. I was part of a lot of the bad habits that the program sort of would shy away from. The company I worked for, Diageo and Labatt was one of our big accounts. So, I was at bars and I drank and I smoked. And so, but it was, for me, my whole habits and everything, it was just very a sociable type of life that I had. And then what brought me to the point of finding out that I had prostate cancer was actually, again, it was because in 2015, I was 45, that it was actually my brother, ironically, that had said to me, you should get yourself tested because it runs in our family. My father had it, my uncle had it, my grandfather passed away from it. Mm-hmm. So when I went and got tested and I talked to my doctor, my GP just said to me, he says, well, you're 45, so do you really, it's at this point in time, it's not, a lot of people don't go and get it done when they're 45. And then I told him that it ran in my family. He said that, then let's get it done. And that's sort of how the situation started at that point in time.
And how did you feel about your diagnosis at first? What were your initial thoughts about it?
Well, initially, after I had the PSA, and the results came back and I found that I had a 5.5, which I didn't really know what that meant at the time. And what my GP had basically just said to me at that time, he said, in most cases, it probably be something that's not too much to worry about at my age. But he said, because I had the family history, he said that it's something that we'd keep watching on it. So at first I wasn't overly concerned because, I'd had read a little bit prior to getting the testing done, and they were saying that prostate cancer was kind of a slow growing cancer, and and as much as they just say, like, I mean, I think most guys in the same position that they're like, that's a general area that they don't really want to do any type of work on. So I sort of thought at the age of 45, I was thinking, okay, it's a slow growing cancer. And, you know, my father had it done when he was in his early 60s. My uncle was the same. My grandfather lived until he was like 79. And this was like in rural Ireland when they had like, outside of, I think, whatever medication he was probably taking back then. So I sort of thought, well, you know, I wasn't thinking that this is something that I had to take care of right away. But again, because my GP said to me that it runs my family, that he said, we'll get it done again in 6 months. And then we got it done in 6 months. My PSA was at 6. So it had gone up by half. So at that point, I was a little concerned. But again, you know, from everything I was reading, I was like, oh yeah, well, it's just sort of just keep right. So I wasn't in a panic mode, but I was more of a, okay, this is something obviously I have to watch. But I wasn't going to put my life on hold, because at the end of the day, until a doctor had said to me, you know, this is something you have to take care of like right now, then I would have done it. And going back to like sort of what my life was prior to that, like I also, I've been waiting to move back to Halifax for like 15 years, because I actually lived here from 1999 to 2005. And then I moved back to Ontario for business reasons. So I was actually at that point in time still pushing really hard to move to Halifax. So I really didn't want to do anything that was going to, I thought if I had the surgery or if I had some sort of thing done with the prostate cancer, that it was going to trap me in Ontario, which from a health standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, that wouldn't have worked for me, because I would not have been happy. So I sort of just decided to go through the active surveillance at that point, and it just progressed from there.
Probably you've been with us for such a long time. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, so how do you find out about PC-PEP, and what do you think about it, and how do you get in the program?
So how I found out about it was, I moved here in 2020. So between 2015 up to 2020, the PSA kept going up and up and up. So I was actually at a point in 2018 that the doctor I had in Toronto, he'd said to me, you really need to think about this at this point, because I think my PSA at that point had gone up to about 10. It actually had reached a high of 13. So over just under 5 years, it had hit 13. So it basically doubled. So when I told him that I was leaving, he recommended Dr. Ricardo Rendon, but then Dr. Rendon also did the same thing as Dr. Andrew Loblaw did, which he told me to go to other, just don't look at surgery, look at the other things. So ironically, it was actually, like, it wasn't Dr. Rob, but it was I think it was a Dr. Mike that told me about PC-PEP. So that's sort of how I got into the program, and that's where it all started. And, so here we are today.
So you started the program in 2020?
Yeah. So I started the program in 2022, March of 2022.
2022. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So basically what happened, so when I moved here, I moved here in August of 2020. And of course, because it was the height of COVID, that caused another unfortunate scenario, which was because of, you only could have so many people in a doctor's office and all that. So all the doctors were backlogged. So by the time I saw Dr. Rendon, I think I didn't see him until like late 2021 or something like that. In 2022, so it was in February of 2022, that he was the one that said to me, when he looked at my PSA, he just said, look, he said, based on your age, based on how fast it's been growing, he says, I recommend you get this done like right away.
Yeah.
And that was before I had actually went to see the other options, right? So he said, go look at the other options, come back and tell me. So, so that's, again, how I found out about your program. So then it was at that point that I sort of pieced the puzzle together, and that's when it began, my my mindset was that, this obviously wasn't going to go away. It wasn't going to disappear. And I already knew that I was already having issues. Like I was already taking, I forget what the drug's called. It starts with a D that I took. I was taking I started taking in Toronto. But anyways, it impeded a lot of issues. So I knew that it eventually had to be taken care of at some point in time. So when I heard about the program and I read about it, I thought, okay, this makes sense. That, if I'm going to be sitting with, doctors plus like-minded people like myself that want to do this, at least I have a support group, and I know that there's people around me that I can ask questions, and it's just not questions that I could be asking people that are like myself. I can actually ask professionals that can give me sound advice, that I'm just not Googling something on the internet and going to Dr. Wacky who's giving me some sort of crazy answer that I think, oh yeah, that sounds great. I'm actually listening to people who actually know what they're doing. So that was the greatest thing about the program for me at that point, that I knew that gave me the comfort of knowing that I would be surrounded by people that would give me the proper guidance and advice that I needed. And then from there, I eventually got the surgery done after the 6 months.
So so you start getting the daily videos, and you probably, as I recall, you started joining the monthly video conferences. What
Yeah.
was that like for you? Did it have any influence on your lifestyle, your habits in general?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said to you before, so prior to, this, like prior to the diagnosis, like I said, I socialized a lot. So, a lot of that I knew had to change. And so, my drinking, it basically became non-existent. Smoking basically stopped, because I usually only smoked when I drank. So when I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking. And then from a dietary standpoint, which I always remember is kind of interesting. And part of me to this day, I still feel bad about it, but because you guys are so busy, I'm sure you guys don't have a little notebook. And I remember Kyle saying this, that it was one of the very first, well, I guess it would have been the first session that I was with you guys on the Zoom call. And as you guys going through the list of things you shouldn't do, somewhere through the lines, you said something about, you were talking about meat. And I just bought a freezer, and I'd gone out and bought like a whole bunch of stuff that was on sale. I like literally had probably about $400 worth of like steaks and beef and tenderloin and all kinds of stuff sitting in my freezer. I said something about, after you'd listed down the drinking, the smoking, and everything, I go, really? And you're gonna take my food away from me too? And it was like, I swear, I think I looked at Rob, and maybe I just could have just the way I was looking, but it almost like a look on his face is like going, okay, we gotta get rid of this guy. This guy's just like he's just not, he's not gonna work out. It's almost like a straight three for him. Taking away his smoking, his drinking, now you're taking away his food. He's like, that's not gonna work. So yeah, so all that had changed. So the interesting thing is that all of that meat and everything I bought, pretty much like it went from, I slowly stopped eating the meat as much and replace that with chicken. And then, so I worked it out that, because I ate fish every Saturday and Sunday for dinner. And then, so the 5 days, on average, I was eating probably chicken 3 days, like Monday through Friday, it was chicken. And then one of the nights I'd usually have a pure vegan meal. Because spices was another thing. When I was growing up, we never used a lot of spices. So the program was the dietary part of it that I took it. Like I've got like copious amounts of notes, still have them on my computer, of all these spices and what they do. And I started Googling everything. And I went out and just bought a whole bunch of spices and started experimenting with a whole bunch of them. And then, so one of the things that it's my own little creation, which I think I said to you guys when you were asking for recipes, is my black bean goop.
Oh yeah.
Which, it's fairly simple, but it's packed with tons of protein, because it's the black beans, tahini sauce, garlic, cumin. What else do I put in? It's the cayenne pepper that I put in with it, with tahini sauce. And then I took up a little bit of splashes of soya sauce to sort of just give it a little bit of, so it's not so dry. And then I just eat that with assorted vegetables and potatoes. So, so for me, when I did all of that over that 6 month period, outside of, because I worked out like every day of the week, and then with the eating, when Dr. Rendon, he said, well, if you're gonna do surgery with me, he sort of tapped my stomach. He goes, you're gonna have to drop some weight. I go, oh, I'm not that heavy. I'm like 165 pounds. He goes, no, you're not. I went, oh, all right. So I went to the gym, and it was because it was COVID and everybody had to wear the masks and everything. So I wasn't wearing my glasses. So as I was weighing myself, I couldn't see what the number was.
Yeah.
And this young girl comes walking by, and I go, can you tell me what that says? She said, oh, it says 175. And she goes, is that good? And I go, no, that's not good. This, right? Because I always pride myself on staying between like 160 and 165 pounds. So from that point, so that would have been, just before I started the program with you guys, I would have weighed 175. And when I went into surgery, I was 152.
Yes.
So I dropped like 23 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that could not have been all because of working out, because with all the working out I would have done, not only would I have lost weight, I would have also gained muscle. And
Yes, that's right.
That, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'd have to say that the weight loss, largely had to do with the diet, because if I hadn't changed my diet, there's just no way. Because I mean, I used to work out every once in a while, or not every once in a while. I'd work out fairly consistently, like at least 3 days a week. Back in the day when I was probably out socializing and drinking and smoking, doing whatever, but I wasn't losing weight.
Since the Industrial Revolution, our foods have changed so much. We're dealing with ultra-processed foods. We're dealing with toxicity and chemicals, a lot of them that are part of what we buy. I mean, you look at the ingredients on most of the things that we buy from the grocery store, and, it's names that you can't even pronounce. Those things can't be found in a pantry. So
Right.
it begs the question, what does this stuff do to your body?
Yeah,
You take it regularly, and so you're staying pretty much in a state of constant inflammation. The same thing with meats. Meats are not supposed to be bad for us. I mean, really, if we didn't inject our animals because of the conditions that they live in, and all the other things that we're trying to keep disease away from the animal before it gets to the consumer. I mean,
Right.
again, you're dealing with a process that it has to affect the body at some level or another. And so, we have now all those scientific papers that are saying, yeah, red meat consumption is associated with higher risk of prostate cancer and even reoccurrence among men. So it begs the question, then why is it? What is it about red meat that is so problematic? And I'm absolutely convinced that it has to do with all the chemicals and the processes that we put fruits and vegetables and animals, for that matter, through in order to, bring the safety up and be able to bring those products in front of the consumer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, the whole process of the way that the consumerism is right now, and as you sadly have probably realized that, I mean, it's lobby groups pushing government to do certain things, and then the lobby groups gives money to the governments, and then the government's gonna say, okay, well, thanks for the money. And then so it's like, you did this for me, so now you're gonna do this for me. And then at the end of the day, it's the consumer at the end of the day that consumes it all. So I mean, I mean and unfortunately that's one of the tricky things, is that the average consumer is something that's worked in marketing as long as I have, and with consumerism and stuff like that. That's one of the issues that I see all the time, is like people buy all these products, and it's just like that they're not good for you, and then because it has either addictive qualities or whatever.
Yes.
That's the other side of it too, right? How do you break people from that cycle? It's one of those balances that you have to try and figure out at some point in time.
Yeah. And I think this was the impetus for Rob and I also to have those monthly video conferences where we do scientific updates, and because there's all the time, there's new information coming from the scientific community, nuancing this kind of news, and it needs to be translated somehow to the patient. Otherwise, those scientific articles remain not accessible by the normal guy going through the disease, right? It remains accessible only to the clinicians or the researchers reading those scientific journals. So to be able to translate that information and make it more palatable and accessible to people, we thought is absolutely vital. Tell me, what are the most, what would you say, Kyle, that were, if any, most significant changes that you've seen in your health or your mindset following the PC-PEP program? And I know you mentioned a few. I mean, you mentioned the weight loss, changes in food in terms of what kind of foods you are eating and buying, staying away from ultra-processed foods and chemicals and toxicity.
Yeah, my overall like mindset and physical condition from the program, and from changing my diet and working on it, it's giving me more energy. It makes me look at things more positively, because I've got more energy. And I think that's the thing that I find the most is like, there's lots of factors around the whole thing, but the program itself, though, was a motivator for me to realize that I had bad habits, and that the bad habits that I had weren't going to help the cause that I need to take care of, which was the prostate cancer issue, right? So at the end of the day, it's changed me considerably. I just weighed myself today, and I was hoping I'd be a little bit less than what I was, but I was 158. But my
wow.
but I'm usually around 154, 155. Yeah. And I know you might be thinking, well, it's only 3 pounds. At least that's what my brother and my sister go, Kyle, it's like 3 pounds. Don't worry about it. You'll probably gain that by the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So, overall, the fact that I've been able to consistently keep that going is because of this program. Because when I walk by McDonald's, I smell it and I go, yeah, I remember those days. And I'm like, yeah, no. So I haven't sat in a McDonald's since, because of COVID and stuff like that. I don't think I actually, the last time I probably went to McDonald's was probably like in 2020 or 2021. So I'd actually not gone to McDonald's during your course or anything like that prior to that. So but I don't even think twice about it. And again, a lot of that is, again, I have had like chocolate bars or certain foods that have sort of cut out of my diet, that when I do have them, my brain, like, especially when I have chocolate bars, like when Halloween rolls around and I buy the candy for the kids, if there's stuff left over, I'll eat one of those small little chocolate bars, whatever. And the sugar rush I get is just insane, because the body, like, there is nothing in this house that there's no candies. There's not like even the sort of nuts that I've got. I used to have the salted ones, but I found the unsalted ones. So I don't even know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I went to I had my physical a week ago, and he was telling me everything was really good. He said every doctor tells me my cholesterol is phenomenal. And somewhere through the lines, and then he said to me, he said, "Oh, your salt's a little high." I'm like, I looked at it, I go, "How is that possible? I don't put any salt into anything in my food." And I'm like, how is it? So all I can think of is that maybe before I had the thing, maybe I had something with the soya sauce in it that had the salt in it, because I don't put salt on any of my food, on anything. So, but overall now, it's like right now I'm drinking just water. I don't have like, I'm talking about your point about processed foods and stuff like that. I don't drink milk, but I drink like soya milk, but it's from the store, right? But it's probably got a bunch of chemicals in it also. But the question of the day is it better than the milk? And I don't know. But and to me, I feel a little bit better that I'm at least choosing something that's, at least in theory, supposed to be better for you than at least when I say, like, soy milk, I believe is better for you if it's done with no chemicals and all the rest of that. But whether you buy it from the store, whether it's better than store-bought milk, I don't know. But that's what I've been drinking now ever since. Well, actually, I started doing it probably, I think, just before I moved here. So, I mean, at least for at least 5 years, I haven't drank. Very rarely do I drink milk. Like if I'm out of my house, I might have milk somewhere, but here, no, there's no milk in my house.
That's quite remarkable to be able to keep inflammation down the way you have. And indeed, I mean, because we formed a community of like-minded people, like you said, and the same goes in our house. You still, from our monthly video conferences, we have this cupboard up there, and if I buy any junk food, they end up there, and then they go bad.
Yeah.
And Rob says, I would rather throw away. I know that we wasted, say, $10 or $20, how much you paid for that product, but I'll
Right.
rather it go to waste than
Right.
end up in your body. And he has a point. He really has a point.
Yeah.
What's your feeling about those monthly video conferences? We have people from all over the world now joining the program,
Yeah,
and
that's great.
yeah,
Yeah, no, the conferences, I mean, I enjoy them. I mean, it gives me an opportunity to hear, you know, the way other people have gone through their processes, and it's also it's educational from the standpoint too. As time moves on and there's more different types of procedures people can do, there was a couple of procedures that people had talked about that I'd never heard of before. So that's one of the things that I like, because I like to take notes on it. Because like I said, because my brother, I mean, he's been fortunate. I
yeah.
think his PSA was like 2 or 3 or something like that. So he's not worrying about it right now, but he also won't talk about it very often with me. So I don't know how much he's holding back from me, which is ironic. Like I said at the beginning of the program, he was the one that said to me, you should get tested. So I'm guessing he's probably fine, but that's the other reason I like the program, because the more information I know, is just if at any point in time I need to share that with my brother, then I can do that. But even just from the general standpoint of just knowing that there's a community, I get to express, my point of view on things that I feel that has helped some other guys. Because I mean, I've mentored 2 since I've started the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and again, they were nice guys, and I mean, one of them, I think, he's out in Miramichi, and I think at some point in time, I'm going to make sure that I go out there, because it's supposed to be the per capita has the most Irish descendants in all of Canada or something like that. So it's one of the. Well, I've got to go out there at some point in time.
That's so good.
So I'll go and do that. So I mean, I love the conferences. I mean, and it's a combination of both, like the educational part of it from what you and Dr. Rob will talk about, as well as what I can get from the other participants. Because like I said, like I've said many, many, many times, yes, we're all diagnosed with prostate cancer, but outside of that, what goes in my life is going to be different from someone else's, right?
Yeah.
And and I've obviously heard there's other guys out there that will say, "Oh, I just had XYZ surgery, and now I've got this," and it's sort of it was an eye opener for me to realize that I'm happy that I've taken care of the prostate side of things now, because as I get older, not saying that I'm hoping that I'm going to have any kind of ailments as I get older, but I mean, I'm not stupid. I realize as I get older that, there's a higher probability that there's going to be issues that I may have to address somewhere in the future. So to have to address prostate cancer plus some other possible ailment just is so much harder on the body. And then as you get older, as we all know, it takes longer for the recovery. And that was the other point that Dr. Rendon had said to me when he said, because if you're going to do this, he says, you're at the best time to probably do this, because if you lose the weight, your vital signs and everything are perfect. So he said, if you do it now, then as you move forward, you don't have to worry about at a point in time where you actually may have some other issues you're dealing with, and this becomes now an priority, and you have no other choice. Plus, he also said to me that, you've got, I was able to do, I think brachytherapy was the only one that I couldn't do. So he said, right now you've got the option. You can either do surgery, you can do the hormone therapy, or you can do chemo. And he said, if you wait too long, some of these options may not be viable to you anymore.
Yeah.
So that's when it boiled down to me at the end, was that, it's like, do I want to live or do I want to die? And I know it sounds extreme when I say that, but it's just the way to look at it. Is like, do I want to roll the dice and just let the years go on and on and on, and then all of a sudden wake up one day and say, okay, your cancer is metastasized, so you can't have surgery. So that option's out. You're not going to have brachytherapy. That's out. And that only leaves possibly hormone therapy and chemotherapy. And it's like, do I want to be on that for the rest of my life? And the answer would be no.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, yeah, that's right.
Right. So the end of it was that I just, like, it's one of the things that I said to the anesthesiologist when I was rolling into I was on the gurney and they were, before even going to surgery, and he says, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Just rip it out like a Band-Aid." Biggest thing, and the next thing you know, I just woke up and I was just lying in the recovery room, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it now. It's like, it has to be done. So it's like, once it gets to that point, that day we decide whether it's surgery or anything else that they're going to do, whatever option people take, just take it as the theory of, like, just rip it off like a Band-Aid, because it just has to be done, right? It's no longer prolonging it and just picking at it here and there, because at the end of the day, the sad thing is that if you leave it for too long and it does metastasize, once that happens, there's people that live fairly relatively normal lives in those situations, but it's a whole different ballgame, right? Because
yes, it is. Yeah.
they've got to take whatever drugs or whatever medications they've got to take to keep things going, right? And
or they might need treatments to various other sites to where the cancer metastasizes. And then there's also the issue, I think, of waiting and worrying. It's tough because you don't know exactly what's going on. And it's not as if all of a sudden you're going to take this news and put it in a hook and let it wait there and pick it up later. It's there with you in your face every day.
Cancer doesn't care who you are, right? It just, like, it is, it'll attack anybody. So
it won't care about skin color,
doesn't
where
care
you
what your
were
skin
born,
color,
education, how much money you have. It doesn't matter. When it knocks at your door, it knocks at your door.
We haven't talked about it yet, but the Kegels and stuff like that. I still believe to this day, like, the Kegels were also outside of the dietary part of it, and the mental health part of it is crucial. And that, the fact that after the months went by of the healing, and I think it was probably after the first month, or probably about a little over a month, I think, maybe, that I started doing the Kegels slowly again. That with everything being combined, with the surgery being successful, that the fact that I've been doing the Kegels prior to the surgery, and I've been doing those for 6 months up until the surgery, and then started doing them like fairly soon after the surgery, that I was able to be, pretty much normal, that I didn't have any urinary issues. I mean, to this day, I sleep through the night. I don't have to go up, get out of bed to go to the washroom or anything like that. If I'm out somewhere where there's not a washroom and I have to go, and I feel like I have to go to the washroom, I can walk around doing Kegels, and, like, and nobody knows that I'm doing it, right? Like, it is what it is, right? And sometimes I even test myself to sort of see, if I'm doing something, I'm in the middle of something, I'm like, do I really want to go to the washroom right now? Do I really, really have to? What? Let's put the Kegels into a test right now and see how long we can go. And then, and I also realized, and again, I'm not a doctor or a medic in any way, but they always say that you shouldn't probably prevent yourself from going to the washroom either, right? So I don't do it to a point that if I feel any strain or anything, but I'll I'm not gonna go to the washroom if I just have to. If I don't have to, if I can prolong it for a period of time so I can finish off whatever I'm doing, I'm going to do that. And it's worked out to my benefit, because also because I don't drive, if I go downtown and I'm coming back up to my house, if I have to wait 10 or 15 minutes for a bus, and then I got to sit on a bus for 45 minutes to get here, then walk another 5 minutes to get to my house, you're looking at close to an hour, possibly a little bit more in some cases, from door to door. I mean, if I hadn't known how to use Kegels and things like that, in the early part of the process when I was healing, it would have been a problem probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and what you're saying is a testament to the scientific studies that we published, and we looked at people's compliance. So if people that adhere to the Kegels on a daily and weekly basis, the way it's prescribed in a 6-month program, do much better in terms of urinary function, even in terms of sexual function at 6 months, at 12 months, particularly men who undergo surgery. So we were able to show that in our phase 3 randomized clinical trial against usual standard of care, but also now in the pan-Canadian international trial that we're running, because we just right now, we just expanded the program, and we're expanding to various parts of the world, New Zealand, South Africa, Europe. We just want to see, are the results of the study the same in other parts of the world? Are men subscribing to the elements of the program that we're promoting the same way? Do they prefer some over others? Are the benefits the same? Does it matter where you live? Does it matter whether you have certain genetic predispositions? Does it matter your treatment? And what we're seeing is that really no, at the end of the day, number one, people really customize the program to their needs. So they take what works for them, leave the rest. And number two, you do the program, you adhere to it, and the results are there. It doesn't matter that you live in a rural area or an urban area. It doesn't matter your social economic status. It really works. Do the Kegels, do the program as it is. It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I
Yeah.
strongly do that. I mean, I think overall, I don't think where one lives should really impede someone being able to go through the whole program, regardless of where you are. Because unless there's, environmental surroundings or something, or prevents you from doing it, but just from the general standpoint, like anybody can stand up and do a Kegel. Anybody can go and get,
Exactly.
proper food to eat, and anybody can work out. They don't need to go to a gym. Like, I can do push-ups and lunges and whatever I want to do in my house. I don't have to leave my house to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, all the major steps of the program, in my opinion, should easily be able to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I need to ask you this question. We've been told, so when we talk about the PC-PEP program, we usually tell, people this is a 6-month daily program, is multifaceted. It has, like you said, dietary, nutritional advice. It has exercise strength training, relationship communication, training and advice, and a curriculum. It has the Kegels part of it. Right? So it's multifaceted, but we say it's 6 months. And we've been told, stop telling people that. The truth is, at the end of the 6th month is when the journey begins. So that's interesting to me. I said, wow. So a lot of the people in the program, like you, they continue with the program, and they adopt the various indications of the program as their lifestyle. And they're seeing benefits. They're seeing improvements. You heard of John Moody, who I think we did the first podcast with him, active surveillance, did the program for 6 months. And then he said, you know what, I did this. I'm going to stop doing the program. I'm going to stop, paying attention to the advice in the program. PSA goes up. And he's saying, oops, I'm going back again, because his PSA for the first time in years has gone down during the program. Gets off the program, PSA starts going up. So he goes back on the program, and PSA goes down. And it's interesting. That's another hypothesis now that we're testing, thanks to patients that are saying, things that we didn't consider before. We didn't think that this program could actually have a very significant impact on men on active surveillance. Now, we just started a mini pilot trial in the Pan-Canadian International complex, whereby we look at men affected by currently under active surveillance to see, does it make a difference for them, a more significant difference, and that's interesting. So you too would think then that this is at the end of the program, it's the start of the journey. it's interesting because men sometimes say getting a cancer diagnosis is like a virus. You're in you're in a computer environment and you get this virus, and then you need to get an antidote against this virus that allows you to live your life normally, that allows you to make the cancer journey and the cancer process, be it treatment, be it, upholding to certain lifestyle that are healthy for you, as a way of keeping you on track, but allowing you to live your life, to live your life's purpose, to do the things that you want to do. So do you think that that's the case? And in what way?
Yeah, well, for sure. No, and that's why I'm saying, when you were saying that you gave this example of the John Moody, that like, for me, now again, like I said earlier, like, I mean, every person is different, their mindset's different, they think differently. But I mean,
Yeah.
but I'd have to, I still have to believe to an extent that if you follow the program over a 6-month period, and once the 6 months is up, is, to fall back into old habits. I mean, I guess it could happen. I mean, it all depends on how much I think it boils down to how much you believe that, that just because, you're, like in my case, that my surgery had been done, that it's like, okay, I'm all done now, I can go back to being the way it was before. I think it all depends on who you are, but I believe that, I mean, the journey for me will always continue, because I already know, like, I mean, like I said, like, to give you an example, like at Halloween, where I've had candies and stuff, like I can, like, when I eat them, I know as I eat them, like, my body's just like, that's just so good. But then my other brain is like, no, 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 it's good. And that's why you can't keep doing it, because you'll fall back into like, because the other thing I didn't say to you is, back in the day, like, prior to my diagnosis, like, I mean, I had a habit of, like, at around 10 o'clock at night, I'd sit down and watch the National, but I would sit down with, like, a bag of chips and a pop, and then I'd go to bed. Like, I did that, like, all the time. And I mean, it's very easy to fall into those scenarios, and that's one of the things that I believe, that the journey doesn't end with your program, because if you keep doing it, it's only going to make you healthier. It's only going to make you have a healthier mindset. What I'm learning is that, from a psychological standpoint, it's much easier to fall into a negative trap than to keep the positive going. Because what I find is that, even though everything is going really, really well, like, I mean, I notice this when I work out, that if I don't work out for, let's say, a week, like, I literally wake up and I'm depressed and I'm upset with myself, because my body has worked out so much now, and it's so conditioned to do that, that my brain is like, it's almost like yelling at me, saying, well, why aren't you going to the gym? What's your excuse? My brain is like, well, it's raining out. Well, you got gym equipment in your basement.
Didn't you see it's raining? I can't go out.
Well, exactly. Well, that's actually a joke I say to all my friends too. Like,
Yeah.
they're saying, "You coming out tonight?" I go, "No, it's raining." But to that point is that it's your program is one of these things that, if I think that I'd have to believe that anybody that takes it, seriously enough, to the point that when the 6 months is ended, and if they were to look back who they were 6 months earlier compared to who they were at the end of the program, and if they saw a big change in a positive way, that I would like to think that at least the majority of the participants would try and keep that going. Or on the other side, if they fell into a gap in their old habits, but quickly realized, well, hold on a second here, I felt this good at the end of the program, and now I feel crap because I've gone back into my old ways, that they're able to have the mindset and the discipline is actually the key point, is that they have the discipline to move forward. Because that was my father's philosophy in life. He was always like, your brain is your most powerful muscle, and at the end of the day, if you let your brain let you fall into a negative spiral, then that's the worst thing you can do. Because once you do that, the whole body will get your whole body falls apart from that standpoint, right? You get depressed, you don't want to do things, and then you get weaker because you're not working out, and you gain weight, and then now you've got a heart condition, and now you've got breathing problem, then you've got, whereas if you let your brain think positively and do things in a positive way, then you're more motivated to do things. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to always be fit or whatever, but at least you've got some sort of positive way of looking at things and a better way of life than on a negative side. If somebody had said to me, let's look at your prostate and all that stuff, like I was 45, I was like, I was still in the mindset that, and I hate to say this, and I'm sure some of the people that are going to listen to this program are going, oh, that crazy young little whippersnapper calling us old men and stuff like that. Like, but that's what everybody called it. It was the old man's thing, right? Like, I mean,
yes. Prostate cancer has been known as an old man's disease, and that's just not the case.
And it's not the case, and that's
just not the case.
And that's, like I said, it's one of those things, like when, and I keep forgetting the actor's name that was from Friends, but there's also there's another actor that again, he was like in his early 50s that had the prostate surgery. So I mean, there's you hear about the famous people because they have a voice and they have an audience, so that's why they'll speak out, which is a good thing.
Yes.
But the downfall is that if there's a handful of famous guys that are out there saying I had prostate cancer and they're in their 40s or in their 50s and they're talking about it, you can only imagine there's probably like tens of thousands of men that are just regular Joe Blows like me that aren't talking about it. Nobody's telling them about it. And one of the things that I was talking to my hairstylist about at one point, because she has cervical cancer and she's young. She was like, I think she's only turning 30 this year, I think. So, but we were having the conversation when I first met her, when I moved here, and we started talking about the whole scenario about, doctors have got I kept saying, I think I said on your program one time before in one of the groups is that I think every GP should have a list that they should be ticking off. And one of those things on that list when people hit a certain age is to say, okay, I recommend that I suggest you get a PSA. And my hairstylist at the time was saying, well, guys just won't do that. And I said, but here's the point though. The reason why doctors aren't talking about it is because they know that men won't do it. But I think what they need to do is have that list so that if I'm the patient and you're the doctor and you say to me, Kyle, okay, you're 50 years old, based on everything that your lifestyle and everything that we think you should have it done. And now I say, Dr. Gabriela, I don't have it done. So you take it off. And then if a year later or 2 or 3 years later, all of a sudden I decide I'm having certain issues or whatever, and I decide to get the PSA done, and then I all of a sudden realize that I have it, well, you're now sort of like free of any kind of conscience of saying, okay, well, you're not going to turn around and say, oh, I wish I talked to you about this earlier. You did talk to me about it, right? I made the conscious choice of saying, I don't want to get this done. But the reverse is sort of what's happening now is that doctors aren't even bringing it up. Or even, like I said, with my GP when I was 45, like if I had said to him I didn't have a history of prostate cancer in my family, he probably said, don't worry about it. Wait, you don't need to deal with it right now. Because that's statistically what, that I had read also is I think in Canada at the time they were saying that it was suggested once you got into your 40s, you should get a prostate test done, or in the US, they were saying once you got into your 50s, or it was the reverse or something of that nature, right? So again, it's one of these things that, as we said, cancer is cancer.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is it's almost like you brought the term like men of the salt of the earth out here, and they're they just want to keep things the way they want, the status quo. Like life is life, just move on, and we'll deal with it when we have to deal with it. When it comes to areas of the prostate or anything in that region for men, most men are like, I'll deal with it if I have to. The reason I again look at it from a positive standpoint is that that the surgery went well because I did do the 6 months of eating well, doing all the training, all the rest of stuff, that I was in good shape.
Yeah.
So I wasn't somebody coming out of hospital that my body was like fighting to recover because,
Mm.
you know, I may have been overweight or I've had other ailments that I had to deal with. Like I had outside of the prostate, I had a perfect bill of health.
Yeah.
So so it was just interesting, the whole process of it.
Yeah.
Me walking up and down the street every day with a cane and my bag on one side and my cane on the other side, and people on this brand new street when I was meeting neighbors, and that's how people got to know me. The guy walking around with a urinary bag on one side and walking with a cane with the other one, who's like barely
What a way to raise awareness.
and
What a way to raise awareness.
barely looks 50, and he's walking up and down the street like he's like 80. So
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What advice would you offer, since we're just about to wrap up, but I just want to ask you, what advice would you offer to other patients that are either considering or just starting the PC-PEP program? And any closing remarks that you might want to make, things that you would like to get out there?
Well, from the standpoint of recommending the program, like 100%, like, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to back out of something that's only going to benefit you. I mean, and it benefits you in so many different ways, as I mentioned earlier. Like, I mean, like, you know, it's a program, it's run by 2 doctors. So you've got 2 professionals running the program. And then you've got around you, everybody's diagnosed with the same diagnosis as yourself. They've all got prostate cancer, or or maybe they've recovered from it, but they're there to give advice on what they've learned. So why would anybody shy away from something like that? And again, it's all private. So I mean, if there's, you know, any hesitation of thinking that, you know, you're exposing yourself to a bunch of strangers, you're exposing yourself to a bunch of strangers that, you know, it's usually all first name basis. Like, I mean, out of all the guys that like that I know, like outside of Ross McDonald, because I know his last name only because he probably doesn't say, oh, come to
Yeah.
some of my
And he's now a research citizen lead. He's part of the team.
right. So I mean, but I mean,
And so
other
are you,
guys,
for that matter.
you know, like, I don't know the last names of the guys that I'm with, but I know who they are, right? And you know, I don't think there'd be anybody that would, you know, if I bumped into any of these guys in a social setting, that I'd probably just come up and say hi to them, talk to them as if I was just talking to you back and forth. I'm not going to bring up the point anything about prostate cancer or anything, unless maybe the 2 of us maybe standing in a corner and it's just the 2 of us talking. But in a public setting, I'm not going to do that, and I don't think anybody in the program would do that. So I mean, for anybody to be hesitant about sharing their situation with a group of like-minded people that they know that there's all these benefits to go along with it, right? I mean, you know, when people know that you're talking about dietary issues, and it's going to be talking about, you know, your mental health and physical health, and everything you talk about, the whole program is all based on a positive way to make your health better, to get to the end result, which is to resolve the prostate issue. Why would you turn it up? Why would you turn it down? It doesn't, for me, it doesn't make any sense at all why you would turn it down. If anything, you jumping at it because, you know, unless there's something that I'm not aware of, there's no other program like this outside of what you're doing, right? So it's not as if you get this opportunity anywhere else. So that's the way I would look at it. The program is phenomenal. I mean, like I said, it's one of these things that it's, especially when I joined the program, I realized like how fortunate I was, because I think at that point, your program may have only been about 3 in its 3rd year or 3rd. Like when did it actually start, in 2000 or 1990 or sorry, 2020 or 2019?
2019, we had a smaller group, only 30 days version of the program. And then in 2020 is when we started the randomized clinical trial. It went up to 2023. And then we opened it to the pan-Canadian. So 2020, I would say that it started in its full version at 6 months.
Right. So then to say it in general, then I was like in the second, 2020, 2021, 2022. So it'd been
second year.
It's basically the second full year that it had been in, right? So I mean, you'd had a few other 6-month courses that you'd gone through, you probably already had about, 18 probably sessions roughly prior to me coming in. But I mean, at that point in time, it was a young program that, a lot of people hadn't heard about it. Like I said, if it hadn't been for Dr. Mike, I may not have heard about it.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't he was the only one that had mentioned it to me. And again, I don't know how the word of mouth would work around in the hospital, or whether it was more you talking about it a lot more than Dr. Rob was talking about. I don't know how it played out, but I mean, I find it very fortunate that I was able to hear about it. And I'm hoping that with this podcast and with the fact that it's been out as long as it has now, that through word of mouth, that more and more people are hearing about it. I hope more and more doctors are hearing about it, so that, regardless what the situation is, whether what, procedure somebody wants to take or what route they want to go, is that any oncologist is mentioning the program, and hopefully somewhere through the lines that GPs are hearing about it. Because I mean, it's just, like I said, as we said earlier, that, I mean, men are hesitant about this. And I think somewhere through the lines, it needs to be brought out. Like, I mean, I even at one point in time, after I had my surgery, and my brain, and it just like more and more people have to know about prostate in general, and the program, should be spoken about too.
This is where we have such an incredible opportunity to raise awareness. This is not an all men's disease. Get tested now. It's so easy. Just ask your GP. You go for a regular checkup, especially if you know that there's history of prostate cancer diagnosis. Say, can I have my PSA checked as well, doc? Do you mind very much? I have a history of prostate cancer in my family. Or even if you don't, what's it going to be? Just click that box. PSA checked.
The program itself that you guys are offering, I mean, if somehow that could be like broadcast on a big flashing banner, or every once in a while somebody at a sporting event, and they just stop the game and they just do like a flash and say, "Did you check your prostate?"
On that note, thank you, Kyle. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for chatting with me this morning and doing this podcast. I'm sure we will raise awareness, and our hope, of course, is that somebody gets something that is helpful to them and on their journey.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And like I said, you guys have been very beneficial to me, and I know that you've been beneficial to the other men that have been in the program, from the men that I've spoken to. And I honestly believe that anybody that watches any of these programs or hears anything about the PC-PEP program, that, it's only within their advantage to be a part of it, because at the end of the day, it's only going to benefit them. It can't, it can't hinder them in any way, because at the end of the day, by having a better diet, learning your Kegels, working out, those are all positive things. There's nothing negative about any of that.
Thank you. Until next time.
All right.
You're welcome.
And this concludes episode number 4 of our podcast. For more information about our programs, please visit pcpep.org. Until next time, be well and take care of yourselves.